seen that the Saudis are now banning people from taking selfies in the haram. And when I mentioned it to Imran, he said that's a good idea. Because people forget that they're there for devotions. Okay, you're there for devotions. You're not there to show everybody, look, I'm here, and the Kaaba is behind me. In fact, why do you want to put the Kaaba behind you? Put the Kaaba in front of you. Okay? So it's not a place to take selfies. I'm not saying you're not allowed to take selfies. If Saudis make that rule, then follow the rule. But you know, at other places, if you want to take a selfie, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm saying don't let that become your objective. Everywhere I go, I have to take a selfie. Because it's not to show others. We want that when we show up on the Day of Judgment, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has us in a record where He says, these are the people I am pleased with. Right? It's not for the albums of this world. It's for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His good pleasure. Alright? So as much as possible, don't stop to take selfies, because that's a waste of time, precious time. Stop to make dhikr and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what is important here. Alright. So now we're going to make sa'i. We're still doing the Umrah. We're not done yet. Alright? It's taking longer to explain than to actually do. By now we would have done, inshallah. Alright? But now, the next stage in the explanation. What do? We finished the tawaf. We have made our 2 rakats at Al-Ibrahim. We have drank from the well of Zamzam. Now we're energized, right? We just drank some water. We're ready for the next step, which is called sa'i, which actually means work. It means effort, right? So, and that's because we're going to go between the 2 hills, Safa on the one hand, Marwa on the other hand. What are these 2 hills? It is mentioned that when Hajar, the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam, we speak of her with respect as our mother. When she was there with her baby and they didn't have any water, she went on these mountains to look for any passers-by who might have some water so that she could feed her baby. And there was nobody in sight. So she went up the one mountain, she went to the other one, back to the previous one, back and forth, looking for water. So we are going to mimic that same activity by going back and forth between these 2 mountains. And that registers for us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was so pleased with this woman and the sacrifice and struggle that she went through, keeping her faith in Allah Azza wa Jal. So we need to have a similar faith as well, imbued in us by this whole experience. And it shows that Islam has a great lot of respect for women as well, starting with Bibi Hajar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with her. So this is the pathway that people are walking through. Of course, when she walked, it would have been open air between 2 mountains. Now, of course, there is a covered area, a pathway that is nice, smooth marble floor to make it easy for us. So, you know, sometimes we go there and we complain, you know, everything looks so hard. But actually, we have to realize that now everything has become so easy for us. Rather than in the ancient days when people went to perform Hajj and they didn't have all of this facility, imagine how difficult it would have been for them, but they did it. Now Allah has made it easy for us, we have to be thankful. So people are performing the sa'i here. They're going from Safa to Marwa or from Marwa to Safa, depending on the angle of this picture. But most naturally I would think that Safa is over here, Marwa is on the other side, and they're going from Safa to Marwa. In fact, that's what it is, because I see the path in between there. Alright, so now here is a schematic diagram showing you the 2 mountains. So we left the Kaaba, we finished our rounds, we came up now towards this area. We're going to start at Safa. When we go to Safa, we're going to recite some things. We get to that in a moment. Then we're going to walk all the way to Marwa. Now these 2 green lights are here on both sides, both pathways, to mark the area where it is mentioned that when Bibi Hajar came to that area, she ran. So, of course, to know the precise area and so on, this is a historical problem, but at least this is an area marked for us just to remind us that this is there in the record that she ran at a certain point, so we're going to run at a certain point as well. But the running is only recommended for the men. The women should walk at a reasonable pace. And so what do you do if you're going together with the group and men and women are in the same group? So if some run, they will go ahead and have to stop and wait for the others, right? So you can do as if you're trotting, but still stay with the group, all right? So we're all together, and so you're not actually running, but you're mimicking that idea. That's the spirit of it. You capture the spirit of it, and that's what is important. Now, this will take a few minutes to go from each round. So you go from Safa to Marwa, that's 1. You go from Marwa back to Safa, that's 2. You go back to Marwa, that's 3, and so on, until for the 7th, you're going to end up at Marwa. Okay? When you end up at Marwa at the end of the 7th journey, the 7th round we can say, that's when your Umrah is complete. And now, to mark the completion of your Umrah, the men will shave or clip their hair short, and women, it's recommended for them to clip just a little bit of their hair, like one lock. You just gather one piece and you clip. How much? They say about this much, like the first, up to the first joint of your finger, that amount. So maybe like 1 inch. 1 inch from one lock, not everywhere. Or you're not required to clip it everywhere. If you wanted to, clip, then it's up to you. But what is required is the 1 inch approximately of one lock of hair. And because when you were in the state of Ihram, you were not allowed to clip any hair. Remember that? Now you're clipping to mark that you're exiting this state. And now you will go on to your regular clothes. Now, when you get to Al-Marwa, there will be some people there with scissors, and they will be saying, that they're ready to clip. They're showing you that they're ready to clip. And they will, you pay them a rial or 2, maybe 2 rials or something like that, and they'll clip your hair for you. So women can go, without exposing their hair too much, they can go into a corner, and maybe one of these girls with the scissors will come and clip your hair for you. I've seen some people walking with their own scissors and doing it themselves. At one time I thought this actually seemed logically absurd, because you're not allowed to clip any hair, whether you're yourself or somebody else, while you are in the ihram, and technically you're still here in the ihram, right? But later on I came to realize that this is acceptable, because the spirit of it is that you have now completed the rites, you're ready to get out of it, and this is that one last thing to be done. So you can clip your own, or you can clip for another sister, or to avoid carrying around scissors and all of that and poking yourself during all of the hustle and tussle of tawaf. It doesn't matter if you give a couple of rials to some of the people there, because one of the sheikhs who wrote about this in his book Fadail al-Hajj said that even when you go shopping in Mecca, you go shopping because you want something, right? So, but why don't you make your intention that by shopping there, you're helping the poor merchants of Mecca. And you want to help them because Mecca is the place that is dear to you. And because the place is dear to you, the people are also dear to you. So if you can help them, help them. All right? So, if you can give some charity, give some charity. And now, of course, you might have people, scrambling around you if you start giving charity in the open. So you have to be careful about that, and be the best judge on how you're going to govern yourself in that way. But what I mean to say now, more to the point, is that if you give a couple of rials to the girls who are there wanting to clip your hair, you're not losing anything. You're giving sadaqah while you're performing an Umrah in the best place in the world, and you're helping the people who are there in the best place in the world. So, make your intention like that. Don't let anything be like a pain in the neck, when you have to spend money. Spend it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all right? As for the men, obviously we don't want a lot of hair all over the place, so they have barber shops just on the outskirts. You go out of Marwa, you exit, and you will eventually be led to a place where they have many barbers lined up, and they're professionals. They know what they're doing. Zip, zip, zip. They'll, get your hair as shiny as the moon before you know it, okay? And they do a good job. They use disposable razors. Actually, these razors seem to be made of plastic, and yet they're very sharp. But of course, it has to be used by people who know how to use those things to get the best effect. It's almost like, you know, those TV ads that say, look at this knife, it can cut like this, this, and this, and they show you the tomatoes nicely laid out. Okay, but for you to do that, you have to be a professional yourself, right? It's not just the knife, but the one who is using the knife. But these guys are good. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them. So then they will shave, or if you want, you can clip. Either way is allowed. But it is mentioned that those who shave, they get more reward. I haven't decided what I'll do. I kept thinking about it, what I'll do, because I'll do the Umrah twice, by the blessings of Allah, because I'll go to Medina first, I'll come back with that group, I'll come with that group to Mecca, I'll perform the Umrah, and then within a couple of days, another group will come and I'll perform the Umrah with the second group again. So I won't have any hair left to shave the second time. So maybe the first time I'll just clip, and then that will leave a little bit of stubble so that can be shaved off the second time. I'll get some hints from these brothers who have done it many times, so they'll guide me. All right, so that's the story there, and then you're done. You're done with the Umrah. Alhamdulillah, we ask Allah to accept it. And now you can go back into your civilian clothes and to civilian type life. If you're there, you know, if you want to contract a marriage, you're allowed now to contract a marriage. You can have intimate relations with your spouse. You can go back to using perfume and so on, right? Okay, so there. And then at the start of Sa'i, okay, here too, it's mentioned that you say this to announce your intention, but it's not necessary to say that, so I'm going to skip that. Now, during the Sa'i, you get up to a Safa, the first mountain. If you know this, it's from the Quran, you can recite it. You can find it in the Quran in Surah 2, verse 158. It's mentioned there in Surah 2, verse 158, and it's mentioned here also in your dua card, which is there in your gift pack. All right? Inna Safa wal Marwata min sha'airillah. The Safa and Marwa are some of the signs of Allah. So that's what it is. So what do you find when you go there? We looked at the schematic diagram, and it looks all smooth here, right, where this person is standing. But actually, on this side, you will find the rocks to be slightly raised. Okay? On this side, it is more flat, but rough. You will find some smooth spots in between. So you want to make dua at both of these points. So what do? You go to a comfortable standing position, because you don't want to be going ouch, 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 and you're trying to make dua, right? You go to a position where you can stand fairly comfortably, and then you pause and you make dua, as much dua as you want. Again, you can have your dua sheet, the same one which you had from your tawaf, with your 7 folds. And here you come and you recite one at each point. That will also help you to remember how many you've done. All right? Or if you want, you can tear a piece of your paper each time. Tear, one notch means you've done 1. 2 notches, you've done 2. 3 notches, you've done 3, and so on. That's more important in tawaf, because it's the same circle each time. How do you remember how much you've done? So if you forget, just take the lesser amount. Like if you're thinking, did I do 3 or 4? Well, consider it 3 and start over, start from 3 onwards. Similarly here. But this is easier to remember, because you go there, you come back, that's 2. You go, you come back, it's 4. You go, you come back, it's 6. Last one, 7, and you're done. All right? So in the Safa wal Marwa, we read that. And then it's mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ said, Abda'u bima bada Allahu bih. I start with that which Allah started with. Meaning that he started with Safa, because in the Quran, Safa is mentioned first. So he means that I'm starting where Allah started. Allah mentioned Safa first, so I'm starting there. And so we can recite the same thing, but it's not a requirement. So I'm trying in what I present to distinguish between what are the requirements and what are like the icing on the cake, right? So some things are mentioned and recommended, some things are essential. So we have to know the essential things. And I'm going to come back, we're going to review what are the essential things. So you climb onto there and you recite Alhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wa Allahu Akbar. But it's not necessary that you have to recite this. Okay? You can recite any dua, including the sheets that you will have. La ilaha illallah wahda la sharika lahu. له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير لا إله إلا الله وحده صدق وعده ونصر عبده وهزم الأحزاب وحده. And you will have that in your handout as well. So you can study it later on. We have to move on because the adhan is going to be called for Asr at any time now. So you perform the sa'i, and this is a translation of what we just read, and you will look that up in your handout in your own time. So you proceed towards Marwa, and as you're coming down the mountain, here's what is recommended. You say Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. And that too, I believe is here. Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It's there in your handout. Okay? So the sa'i, okay, we've already described that. And the shaving and clipping of the hair, we're sailing. And then your Umrah is complete, well, alhamdulillah. And now we have some historical sites to describe. Should I get into that now, or time does not really allow? And I don't know what you have planned. You have all of these things planned? MashaAllah, what a nice trip it's going to be. Okay, so where are we going to visit? We're going to visit at Tan'im, that's Masjid Aisha. That's one of the miqat points. So let's say you are already in there, and it occurs to your mind, you know what? I'd like to go do another Umrah. Maybe I'll do this one on behalf of my deceased grandfather. So you can go back to that masjid, which is the starting point, the miqat, and you can don the ihram from there, and you can come back and perform the Umrah. But one of the books I was reading says that people go through unnecessary trouble to do this. It's not really necessary to do that. You want to do some good for your family, make dua for them and so on. You don't have to actually go and do another Umrah on their behalf. And of course, the book mentions that in people trying to do this, they increase the crowding and level of traffic and so on. So it's not necessary to do all of that. But anyway, that's the masjid. Arafah, if you were going to Hajj, then standing at Arafah would have been the most essential part of the Hajj. So we will go and see what that Arafah looks like. Mina is the place where people camp when they go for the Hajj. They live in tents for about 5 days in a place called Mina. And that's where they perform the sacrifice. We perform the sacrifice here in Toronto or anywhere else. But the Hajis, they perform their sacrifice theoretically in Mina. Of course, nowadays they just buy a chit and it's done for them, but that's the place where it is traditionally believed that Ibrahim alayhi salam was willing to perform the sacrifice, and that he did perform the sacrifice of the animal that was provided for him. Muzdalifah is the place where people spend a night when they come back from Arafah. Basically they camp at Mina for the 5 days. That's their basic station for the days of the Hajj. From there they go to Arafah. From Arafah they come to Muzdalifah. It's an open space. They don't have any place to live, just the sky above them. They're going to spend the night at Muzdalifah in the open air, and then they're going to come back to Mina. We're going to find Jannatul Mu'alla. I don't know what this is. What is this? In Mecca? A graveyard in Mecca? Okay, I'm told that is where Hadrat Khadija radiallahu anha is buried, in this garden. And then we're going to go to the Thawr mountain, which is the place where it is mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ hid when he was making the hijrah and the enemy was after him for his life. So it'll be good to see that. It'll be educational for me. And then An-Nur mountain, that's where the Prophet ﷺ received the revelation for the first time. We're going to go there and have that, see that inshallah. And then arriving at Masjid al-Haram. So when we arrive at the Masjid al-Haram, we come into Mecca, we arrive there, that's the object of our quest. What's the Masjid al-Haram? This is the Kaaba, right? Now a bigger masjid has been built around the Kaaba. So you're entering a big masjid, and this is a smaller masjid inside that big masjid. So that big masjid is called Al-Masjid al-Haram. So when we get there, what do we do? Enter with the right foot, as we do with every masjid. We enter using our right foot. You know, they say, put your best foot forward, right? So this is what we do. We're entering a masjid, best foot forward, and then we recite the dua. Bismillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, Allahumma aftahli abwaba rahmatik. Or just simply, oh Allah, just this part. Oh Allah, open the gates of your mercy for me. So we're entering into a gate or into a door, and we're asking Allah, Ya Rabb, open up the doors of your mercy for me. Right? That's every masjid. Now, we only get one chance here or a few chances, so we want to do it right here. Now we go to Medina. All right. So far we're talking about Mecca, right? Now we're going to get on a bus, 4-hour trip, maybe 6 hours to Medina. All right. Prayer time is soon. So let me go through very quickly. So we go to Medina. Our Umrah is done, right? If somebody, took a flight back from this point onwards, they came back to Toronto, they didn't go to Medina, nothing is short of their Umrah. They did their Umrah, it's complete, it's done. Okay, now this is extra. We're going to Medina. Why? That's where the Prophet ﷺ spent the last years of his life, and there are many historical sites there, but also most importantly, his masjid is there. And it is rewarding for Muslims to go and pray in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. So we go there. So we go, we pray, we go to travel, and so we say that we're going to visit the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. So some scholars said that you shouldn't intend that you're going to visit the grave of the Prophet, because that's not in Islam that we visit graves. But because the masjid is mentioned as a place to go and pray, we're going to visit that masjid, the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. While we are there, of course, his grave is inside the masjid, so we will say salam and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll say salam to the Prophet and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while we are there. So we don't have to announce this intention by words, it's just in our minds. We know that's what we're about to do. We go to the Masjid Nabawi. So when we arrive there after a 6 hours bus ride, we want to make sure we're going to present ourselves in the best way possible, right? So first go to your hotel, put your luggage, secure your room, take a shower if you need to, be in your neat clothing, and then you go to the masjid with dignity. Right? With every prayer you come with dignity. You don't go rushing into the prayer, disturbing everybody else. You catch what you can of the prayer. If you miss some rakats, you pray it on your own, right? But you approach with dignity. So now we're going to approach the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ with dignity. So that's what we do there. And then we're going to perform 2 rakats of nafil prayer. If it is not one of those times when the prayer is deemed to be impermissible. Some scholars will say that it doesn't matter. You can pray what is called Tahiyatul Masjid, you can pray at any time, or if you have reason to pray, even during those prohibited times, you can pray. But don't go and pray for no reason at all, like, this is the prohibited time, let me pray some prayer. No, that's counter to the spirit of it. But if you came into the masjid, even if it is the prohibited time, you can pray the Tahiyatul Masjid. But if you're following the fiqh ruling that says don't even pray the Tahiyatul Masjid at that time, okay, that's up to you. Then follow that ruling, that's okay. So Tahiyatul Masjid, what is meant by Tahiyatul Masjid? It means that the masjid is here for worship, right? So when you come to the masjid, give the masjid its due. It's here for worship, right? So come and worship. So that's what we do. We establish that we recognize that this is a place for prayer. We came, we prayed, now we can do anything else. We want to talk to our friends, there's a banquet going on, whatever, but we came, first thing, we want to pray because we recognize that the masjid is here. That's what Tahiyatul Masjid is about, right? It's called Tahiyatul Masjid, it means the greeting to the masjid. So we're greeting the masjid, where we're giving the masjid its due, all right? So it doesn't cry against us on the day of judgment. I was here and nobody came and prayed, So we were there, inshallah, right? But Amir, you're there. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so now when you come to the place where the Prophet ﷺ is buried, his mausoleum is separated from you by these by wall and doors. So when you approach, we understand that the Prophet ﷺ is buried, and close to him is Abu Bakr, and close to him is Umar radiallahu anh. Not necessarily where these doors are spaced. Where exactly, I don't know. But the idea is that you come and in a respectful way, you say, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi. Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi. As we say in our prayer, right? We are giving salam to the Prophet ﷺ. We don't pray to the Prophet. We cannot pray to the Prophet ﷺ. We only pray to Allah Azza wa Jal. But we're giving salam to the Prophet. Okay? As we might go to any graveyard and we can say salam to our relatives who are buried there, or to the people who are buried there in general. Assalamu alaikum ya ahl al-qubur. Peace be upon you, O dwellers of the grave. So we're giving salam to them. We're giving salam to the Prophet ﷺ. And then you can say all of this if you want. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Rasulullah. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Nabi Allah. As-salatu was-salamu alayka ya Habib Allah. But just the first one is enough. As-salamu alayka ayyuhan Nabi wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So that's enough. You're done. Salam on the Prophet. Now you move a little bit aside. Give salam to Abu Bakr. Assalamu alayka ya Abu Bakr. Move aside. Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen Umar. You give salam to Umar radiallahu anh. And then you move on. Now, you may not have time to stop there and make any dua. If you stop to make dua, it will not be to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It will only be to Allah Azza wa Jal. But because there is a throng of people coming through, the guards will usher you out. So that's fine. Follow their directives. They're there to do a job. Cooperate with